Joining us now from Munich, House Speaker Emerita and California Democratic Representative Nancy Pelosi. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. It's quite a day here. Secretary Rubio's speech was well received. It was a little bit condescending to the Europeans. We're willing to be with you as long as we agree on certain things, but nonetheless well received, and they were happy. Compared to Vice President Vance's speech last year, which was all really insulting, this was much better. But the moment now that we're observing is that we just heard this spectacular presentation by President Zelensky. He was absolutely fantastic, very truthful about the gratitude he has to the United States and to European friends, but what he needs more of. From our standpoint, what was great was that our Senator Wicker, who was there as the chairman of the Armed Services Committee in the Senate, said that this week, in the next 2 weeks, there'll be a vote on sanctions against Russia. And when those sanctions are in place, Russia will have less ability to fund this war.
Speaker Emerita, I'm curious what you're hearing from our allies and the folks that you're talking to over there at the conference about our domestic policy, because sometimes Americans, as things are happening here, whether it's what's happening in Minnesota or immigration writ large, we think that we're the only ones having that conversation. But I'm curious how our allies overseas, in the conversations you're having, how are they kind of taking in what's happening in our country right now?
Well, what they're most concerned about is the election. Is it going to happen? I said, you have parliamentary system, we have presidential. Parliamentary systems can call elections when they want or not. And presidential, in the history of our country, we've never deviated from having our elections on time. And so that's, I've assured them, you can be certain of that Democrats will take the House of Representatives, and that gives them some relief about how we go forward, because we had so many shared values along the way. They don't see it that way now, but the prospect of a Speaker Hakeem Jeffries is a consolation to them, as it is to all of us. But I have given them absolute certainty that we will win, that we will have an election, it will be safe, and that we will have an agenda to go forward that they will be very proud of, that is consistent with our values for America's working families.
On the elections, right, the president said that we will absolutely have voter ID, whether or not Congress gets on board or not. You have the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, going down and helping to execute a search warrant to grab 2020 ballots from Fulton County. They are, looking at, in Puerto Rico, looking at their machines. There seems to be a lot happening, but you are sure, and you are telling our allies, and I assume telling the American people, that there might be shenanigans, but we will have an election in 2026, because there are a lot of people that have a lot of concerns about that right now.
Oh, yes, and I hear that all over the United States, not just in Europe, and that there is concern about the election. Let me just say that surveillance by the intelligence operation of our country, surveillance in our own country, is something that is absolutely not to be allowed. Now, if there's some particular reason, there's one thing. But for Tulsi Gabbard to be looking into elections is really not right. It's not lawful. It's not right. But that doesn't seem to ever bother the president. But you know what? We don't agonize. We organize. And we have litigation. We have lawyering in addition to in the courts, but at polling places and the rest. We have legislation, and we're going to fight him on the SAVE Act for the voter ID. It's just not right. And there are many Republicans in the country who know it's not right, because it's inconvenient for them as well as it is for married women in the country. If you don't have your birth name on your voter file, that's a problem. Well, we need no need to go into all of the problems with it, except to say it's a problem. We're dealing with it. And the president, I'm really, people are concerned. Is he going to send in ICE and the National Guard, the this, the that? Don't put anything past him, as we saw on January 6th, when the president of the United States personally incited an insurrection in our country. He's capable of any bad thing. But the fact is now this is well heralded that he wants to do this. Again, I say it, we don't agonize, we organize, we fight in the courts, we fight in the court of public opinion, and we fight in the Congress of the United States against what he's trying to do.
This is Speaker Pelosi. It's Jonathan Capehart. Anyone who has interviewed you or even paid attention to anything you've said in your years in Congress, your favorite quote comes from President Lincoln, where he said, "Public sentiment is everything. With public sentiment, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed." We have seen poll after poll showing the president's approval rating going through the floor. His standing when it comes to immigration tactics. As we open the show, 62% of the American people don't agree with his tactics when it comes to immigration. And then there, the poll numbers on the economy and other aspects of his presidency. Do you think President Trump has lost public sentiment?
I think he's lost public sentiment. But what I also say about Lincoln's quote, public sentiment is everything, whether you can accomplish anything without it, practically nothing. But for public sentiment, I add, to prevail, people have to know. And what you're seeing is the impact of people knowing more about what this president has been up to destroy our democracy, that's for sure. But we save our democracy at the kitchen table by having an agenda for working families, for cost of living, to address affordability, cost of living, job creation, education of their children, health care cost, and the rest, cost of housing, which I consider a health issue. So again, we're going to save the democracy at the kitchen table. But again, people have to know what we've done to industrialize our country, to do all these things that they want to see done, and we did, but they may not be aware of it. But nobody in an election votes about the past. They always vote about the future. Elections are about the future. We just can show what we've done to show that we're capable of doing more. But I feel very strongly that we're going to have, based on values, based on principles, civility, not engage in the kind of activities that they do, that we're going to not only win, but we're going to win back the confidence of the American people. So working together, we can go forward with respect for differences of opinion, but also honoring our oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Speaker Pelosi, to your point about people have to know, I'm just wondering your impressions of the people of Minneapolis and Minnesota writ large, their reaction to the president's ICE tactics on the streets of Minneapolis and in that state. Are you impressed by them? Are they a role model for the country?
Well, I'm very impressed by them. I'm sorry for them. I pray for them, because two of their community were shot dead, assassinated by this administration for what? Because of, well, I heard earlier you were talking about Kristi Noem and the rest of that, this ridiculous policy. But these are the policies of the President of the United States. Let's not forget that these other people are employees. But God bless the people of Minnesota. I'm totally convinced that in the goodness of the American people, and that was so demonstrated in Minnesota as they peacefully expressed their views and then had to suffer for it, but again continued to come together in unity. And that sense of community is so important, and remembering that the word community has the word unity in it. So yes, it is a model to the rest of the country. And again, they cannot, these people are saying if you peacefully demonstrate and you say something negative about ICE, you've broken the law. Come on. But the people of Minnesota didn't take the bait, and that's what we have to remember. Don't take their bait, but act upon your own beliefs and principles and your faith. Faith in the goodness of the American people, faith in our country's future, faith in God for those who have faith. I think it's a gift. Some have it, some don't, but nonetheless, all concerned about coming together for our country and keep moving as far away as possible from the destructive, mean, cruel, corruption in terms of this administration and their policies.
Speaker Emerita, before we're out of time, I want to ask you about Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. When she first arrived in Congress in 2019, there were obviously some public tensions between you and her and the squad over strategy and the way that the Democratic Party should conduct themselves and navigate the Trump administration. She's recently emerged as a more prominent voice for the party. She spoke at the security conference. I'm not sure if you were able to catch her, but she talked about democracy and authoritarianism. I'm wondering if you have been mentoring her or offering her in guidance as she's expanding her portfolio and taking a broader leadership role within the party.
No, I'm pleased with it. I'm glad she's here. It's, they canceled our House trip. The bipartisan trip, the Speaker canceled it like an hour or two before we were supposed to leave, but some of us managed to get here anyway. All I said, and people say you have this tension. We didn't have any tension. All I said is, if you want to be a legislator and pass bills, it's important to have the votes to do it. It doesn't help to go online and criticize the people that you want to have because they're not as progressive as you are. She's been a star, eloquent, forceful, and the rest. And she gets along very well with Hakeem Jeffries. They have a New York connection. But I'm so glad she's here. And the other members who are here, Sarah Jacobs is here.
Do you think she should be running for, would you encourage her to run for a higher office, which is what a lot of the speculation is, that she's potentially setting herself either up for a Senate run or a 2028 presidential run?
Do you know how many times I've been asked that question about so many people, mostly Gavin Newsom here, because he was here as well. I always just leave those things up to people, and when they want my help or my suggestion, they'll ask me. But in the meantime, I wish them all well, because our party is a big tent. We have lots of opinions within it. But I will say this. We must win this election. So I'm not happy about those who are deciding that they're going to challenge incumbents for one reason or another. That's the Democratic way. But don't use it as something that could hurt other Democrats and across the country, because we must win. After that, we can get things done across the spectrum of beliefs in our party, and then there's more of a luxury to go after each other. But for now, we need the unity. As I always say, our unity, our diversity is our strength. God bless them all for their differences all of us for our differences of opinion. Our diversity is our strength. Our unity is our power. Let's win, baby.
Let's win. And with that, we're going to leave it there. Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi coming to us live from Munich. Thank you very, very much for coming to the weekend.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.